Let's talk the curious case of Sasha Alexander Zverev. The match with Millman last night, this is the story of it. Average rally length on serve, 3 shots, Sasha Zverev. Yeah, lots of aces or, serve plus 1 type plays. And Millman, 13 shots on average. He had to work. He had to fight. He did a great job as far as effort level goes. 6-4, 6-4, a couple sets. And that second set in particular is one that I'm going to zoom in on because that is where the issues, the problems with Sasha Zverev were exposed, but obviously they didn't mean much in this 6-4, 6-4, 6-0 bagel, one of the bagel bros, as you see from the thumbnail. Didn't mean much in this victory. But first, before we do that, I just want to talk about how Sasha Zverev is kind of, he's starting to settle into his role as a big star in the game, as an ambassador of the sport, a big 3 type, and the way he handles himself, with the on-court press conferences, throwing in the little jokes, and then this, giving the crowd literally what they want. The umpire had to ask this guy, you see him in the purple over there, I don't know if he's even paying attention yet, as you see in this picture. The umpire had asked him to give a ball back a couple of times. And then after the new cans came out, the new balls, please, Zverev took this one old ball and walked over and threw it to the guy on the changeover. And then take a look. This is great. He's about to catch it. Oh, it's off the chest. Oh, he's titillated there, you can see. But eventually, a good Samaritan gave the ball back to the feller, and he got to keep his ball. So, all right, Zverev is settling into his role. But this is where the issues are. Look at this average second serve speed. You might think this is not such a big deal. But if you would have saw the 75-mile-an-hour second serve double fault that Zverev hit, I believe it was in this game. I think he was up 40-30 in 4-3. Obviously, it doesn't matter. He goes on to hold. He goes on to win the set 6-4. And then the third set, Millman, who'd pretty much thrown everything he had into the match at this point, was running out. And Zverev really laid it on him. But one of the things the commentators pointed out was after Zverev got early breaks in both first and second serve, he didn't really push Millman in the return games as much. He just kind of coasted to the end because his serve game, despite some double faults, despite, as you see here, losing confidence in the second serve somewhat, the first serve is so good. And then ultimately, what is making me more of a believer in Sasha Zverev, which always will make me a believer in these young, talented players, Tsitsipas, the first one. Take a look at this series of images of Sasha Zverev hitting a perfect, and if you're new to the sport, let me tell you, Zverev used to be the worst volleyer on tour, one of them. This is perfect. Perfect technique from Sasha Zverev. Getting really good at net. And then the other thing that kind of ties in with that is how he used to drift his comfort zone when things went wrong, when things got nervous or tight, was to drift further and further away from the baseline and be more defensive. And not in a good way like Medvedev, where he's going to try to soak up your offense and then strike when the strike is good. Just kind of in a passive cross your fingers and close your eyes and hope that things don't go horribly wrong kind of way, which never works. So now he's attacking more, and he's hugging that baseline, stepping in more, and really bringing some pressure. Maybe he laid off pressuring his opponent after the breaks in the first couple of sets, but in the third set we saw what he did. The problem is always for me with Zverev, as he gets further along and plays tougher opponents, scarier opponents, maybe he won't recover so well. Maybe when he hits the 75-mile-an-hour double fault, he doesn't go on to hold serve in that game. He doesn't win that second set. If it's Rafa Nadal, and it could be, do you think this isn't an issue? I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be very interesting to watch Sasha Zverev. Let's go to a comment from one of the patron saints. God bless the patron saints. This is from Konish. Good to have a regular draw show again. No more coffee break COVID. What a relief, as you see from the relief emoji. Well, I had a couple comments that I was going to read, but they were COVID related. This is the power of the patron saints. I have now wiped them from the slate. You will not have to hear anything about those COVID comments. But I do have to do one thing that is somewhat COVID related because it relates to the well-being of the tennis tournament moving forwards. And I was kind of shocked by this headline. This is, it's kind of a big news thing. I guess this would have been out there before, Perhaps I missed it. An unforced error. By the way, I have another unforced error I made that I have to get to in a little bit. But just wanted to give a shout out to the patron saints and Konish. If you're curious about the patron saints and you want to join the team here at Coffee Break Tennis, go to patreon.com/Coffee Break Tennis so that you can wield great powers in the show like Konish. Thank you for commenting there, Konish. Skipping that, and going straight to this from Reuters earlier today. We're not getting tested, said Sasha Zverev. And he also, Zverev says, he said that, and he also says, you see in the headline, there's probably more players right now in the tournament who have COVID-19. Shocking, truly shocking stuff there. So let's read it, because this is a big story. I said in a previous video that this might all come back to bite them if some big stars turn out to have COVID and have to get kicked out of the tournament. But if they're not being tested, well, it turns out they will be tested, but only once. Alexander Zverev believes there are probably more players at the Australian Open who have COVID-19, but they are not being tested, the third seed said. Ugo Umpire, which this explains, kind of shocking to see him lose to Gasquet. He tested positive on Wednesday for the coronavirus, a day after his first round defeat by compatriot Richard Gasquet, forcing him to isolate for a week in Australia before he leaves the country. That explains a lot in that match, huh? Reuters has contacted Tennis Australia for comment. Australia's ABC News reported players must conduct daily rapid antigen tests by themselves, while supervised tests are conducted on the day they arrive and between days 5 and 7 of their stay. So that first one's done. There will be one before we go into the second all-important week, because I think the Australian government knows, and this kind of makes them look hypocritical, like health and safety is really not their big issue here. They definitely don't want to see a big star get kicked out of the tournament and say have to cancel one of the semifinals or, God forbid, the final. So when will they do that between day 5 and day 7 test? That's interesting that they leave it open like that. Bernard Tomic, of all people, had criticized the COVID-19 testing protocols during the qualifiers last week, saying, I can't believe nobody's getting tested. They're allowing players to come onto court with rapid tests in their room. No official PCR testing. Of course, he tested positive 2 days later. Zverev said he is taking all precautions because, look, he knows it. We know it. He's got a good shot to win this thing. He's staying in his own bubble to avoid infection as the 24-year-old Olympic champion seeks his maiden, which means first, Grand Slam title. I'm here to play the tournament, and I understand that there is a lot of cases in Melbourne. There's a lot of cases in Australia all around, so I don't do much outside. I haven't been to any restaurants. I haven't been out. I haven't been anywhere but the hotel room and the courts, so I'm kind of doing a bubble for myself simply because I don't want to take any risk, and I want to give myself the best chance possible to do well here. Yeah. He doesn't want to be kicked out of the tournament, which is smart. All credit, all praise be to Sasha Zverev. Anyways, just had to run that by you. I thought that was an interesting one. We've got plenty of good stuff on today's edition of Coffee Break Tennis. Let's get going. Welcome to the Coffee Break Tennis Podcast. We are a podcast again today. Might be tomorrow, Friday. We will kick it off with the videos again for sure. Maybe even tomorrow if time permits. We've got the best match yet. Kyrgios and Medvedev coming up. It's going to be a 3 a.m. match here for me. So first on for the night session. And we're going to... I'm basically going to go to bed very early and try to wake up while that match is still going, start it over, catch up, and get ready to do a great show. Tomorrow's show will pretty much just be talking about that, and we'll take a look through the draw because other than that match, not a ton of interesting matches going on. We'll see if Andy Murray survives another round. But other than that, this is the big story coming up. But I made an unforced error yesterday. I said that Liam, what's his name? Liam Broady would probably fondly look back on his experience playing Nick Kyrgios for the rest of his life. It would be one of his best memories, right? Well, maybe an unforced error here. Absolutely awful. Nick Kyrgios called out over distasteful act, and Liam Broady has said that it was horrible to play. He also, you got to listen to him because sometimes he's kind of joking around, and he says he's glad he did it. Basically like, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. If I can play through that, I can play through anything for the rest of the year. So not all wrong here, maybe. And I think I still stick to my guns here and say, he's going to change his mind and look back one day and think like, I'm glad it happened. What a crazy story. It's going to be one of the more memorable matches, even if he thought it was kind of terrible at the time. But British tennis commentators, this is who they're focusing on, saying it was so distasteful. David Law and Catherine Whitaker have called out Nick Kyrgios over his distasteful antics against Liam Broady. Kyrgios was too good for the British qualifier Broady on Tuesday night, pulling out all the tricks in a 6-4, 6-4, 6-3 victory. He also produced an audacious between the legs underarm serve. Yeah, we talked about all that. While the majority of the fans in attendance on the People's Court were loving the theatrics, not everyone was so happy with what they saw. David Law and Catherine Whitaker, who run the renowned tennis podcast, felt that some of Kyrgios' antics bordered on disrespectful. As I pointed out yesterday, it did feel like that sometimes, not because it's Kyrgios necessarily, because of the crowd more. But then, he was always a good sport to his opponent, saying, good shot, too good, mate, stuff like that, joking around with Broady. Overall, I can't fault Kyrgios for doing what he always does. I don't know where the line is. I don't know where the line is between entertaining the crowd with antics and mocking your opponent, who you're beating quite easily, said David Law. And then Catherine Whitaker, she was really worked up. She said, I've been to Kyrgios matches for about 7 years, and this is the first time I've felt I just wasn't into it. There are people here. The crowd inside John O'Kane Arena. Whole rows of Australian journalists we are sitting to in the media center, and people are still going for it and enjoying it. They're getting swept up. I am a little bit over the Kyrgios show, she said. And then she turned around, and there was an intern in the room, and she killed him. She bit his head off. So over at the tennis podcast broadcast, they were not too entertained by Nick Kyrgios, but I'm pretty entertained by Nick Kyrgios. Let's listen to what Liam Broady had to say instead of the tennis broadcast people. I mean, everyone is telling me before the match, you're going to really enjoy it. It's going to be amazing. But I thought it was absolutely awful. I obviously wanted to go out there and win, so losing matches in general isn't enjoyable. You get sledged from the sides you can't believe that they don't pick up on TV. So it was a very, very difficult atmosphere to try to handle. And like I said, he's incredible at getting them behind him, and he plays better for it. I know what Nick's like, and I saw a few of the guys in the locker room before. They said, are you ready for the disrespect out there? I don't think it's personal. If I felt like it was personal or malicious, then I probably would feel like he crossed the line. But as I said, our job is to entertain the people and for them to enjoy the tennis that they come out to watch, and he does that. Full respect to him. That's what tennis is about, I think. Yeah, sometimes he makes you feel stupid with the shots he hits, with the underarm serves through the legs and the little lobs and dinks and then the big hits. And sometimes you feel like a bit of a club player out there. That's what he does. Again, that's one of his biggest weapons. I think if you told Nick to stop all of that showmanship and all that stuff that he does, it would take away a big strength of his game. So, yeah, I'm all for it, to be honest, even when it's against me. So maybe I wasn't an unforced error. Maybe the unforced error was from the tennis broadcast. Breathless, exasperated, All right, moving on. Let's take a look at some of the action from yesterday. Let's talk about those bagel bros. Those bagel bros, baby. Rafa looked good. Hanfmann really brought everything he had, and Rafa came through. Came through in straights. Pretty easy, actually. He little challenged at times, but that's what Rafa needs, especially now that Khachanov looks pretty good. But, oh my God. What happened to our friend? It's a shame. What happens to Hurkacz? He loses to Adrian Mannarino. Perhaps I will play Adrian Mannarino in his place now. I don't know. But I am not too happy for Hurkacz. That's what went down with Hurkacz. Adrian Mannarino, 6'4", 6'2", 6'3". Hurkacz looked completely befuddled, completely bamboozled, overwhelmed, didn't know how to play a guy who plays very different than everyone else on the tour. Mannarino looked really good coming into net and finishing. Very simple volley technique, uses his body weight, which not a lot of it. He's kind of a small guy. Uses that body weight very effectively. Adrian Mannarino, he put on the full show and made Hurkacz look pretty foolish. Last time Hurkacz looked that foolish was when he came out to the press conference and there was no questions because there was no reporters because no one wanted to ask any questions. Which it is, kind of sad. I feel bad for him. But I felt worse for him this time around because it was ugly the way he lost to Adrian Mannarino, who ran him all over, who looked like he was the one with the giant serve instead of Hurkacz. Hurkacz, he could barely return Mannarino's serve. And Mannarino, he could put a little pop on his serve, a lot of slicing serves, a lot of good, accuracy on the serve. Anyways, isn't that interesting? The guys that Federer kind of struggled with Mannarino at Wimbledon last year, and then he went down to Hurkacz. Made me think of Federer and wonder how he would have done on this court this year, watching how Mannarino was able to hit his spots with the serve and come to the net and finish so frequently. Made me wonder what it would look like to see Federer out there if he was healthy enough to get a little revenge for Wimbledon last year against Hurkacz. I would think he could have thrown a beat down on him. Anyways, I bring this up because Hurkacz was supposed to be a threat to Rafa Nadal. It took me a while to come around to Hurkacz. I see the talent. I mean, he was showing talent as early as 2018, I want to say, is when we saw him and said he looks like he could be the real deal. Maybe it was 2019. Anyways, he's no longer a threat, Raw fans out there. Zverev, we talked about. Shapo almost did the same thing his fellow Canadian ATP Cup champion Felix Auger-Aliassime did. 7-6 in the first set, a set that Shapo is lucky to have won. Then goes on to lose the next two to Sunwoo Kwon. 7-6, 7-6. So 3 tiebreakers to start it. Another 7 involved in the score in the fourth set, 7-5, 6-2 in the fifth. Shapo, bigger, stronger, faster than Sunwoo Kwon. But Shapo lucky to win that first set. And if he had not, maybe he wouldn't have been able to see a fourth set, just like with Felix. Kind of interesting. Monfils, very impressive. He had won the first Adelaide. I didn't see his match in the second Adelaide, but he was one and done there, pulled out with injury. Maybe he was just realized that if he pushed it, maybe it wasn't like a bad injury or anything, but it was obviously something that he just needed to chill on and save it for the tournament. So good on him for doing that. And one of the bagel bros here, throwing down a bagel, just like Kachanov and Zverev, 6-1, 6-0, 6-4. Bublik, I thought, when I saw the score and then I watched the match, the first two, I didn't see the third set, so maybe Bublik put in a good effort there. But, it looked like he was putting a pretty good effort from what I saw in the first 2 sets. Just Monfils was playing great. Monfils is looking very focused. I think his marriage, the Svitolina, has been a good thing. Give him a shot. In fact, when we look at the draw, I think he's got a shot to go pretty far at least. Berrettini comes through in 4. I think that is the biggest name in Monfils' section of the draw. The way I saw it, I'd like Monfils to beat Mr. Berrettini. Carreño Busta, I watched his first set and thought, okay, he's going to handle Greek sport no problem. And then he has to do it in 5. Not sure how that went down. Didn't see Karatsev's match, but drops the first set and then in Karatsev style just drops the hammer, the big Russian hammer on Mackie McDonald. 6-2, 6-2, 6-3 after dropping that first set. Alcaraz, I saw a bit of. Pretty impressive. Not much to not like about this young man. Hope he keeps going. Garin, 5 sets. It was close, but Martinez did not win as I predicted. I was wrong on that. Oscar the Otter. I was pretty sure Sonego would win, but the Otter could do a little damage. He won 1 set, then drops the next 3 pretty easy. Didn't see Radu Albat's match, but Mr. Radu Albato will be playing Zverev next, so I don't think he has a chance. Riley Opelka, I watched the first set. Very frustrating. Getting in some, you would think he was kept for because he was getting in these 8 deuce games, or at least one. And I thought, man, this is going to be a struggle for him. Is he going to actually win this match? And then I tuned out and was bored with Opelka. And looks like he must have done good after that game I watched. That long game where he kept going the deuce on his serve, fighting really hard. I thought, man, if he has to fight this hard just to hold serve in the first set, how's he going to beat Kepfer? But he came through in straight sets. Looking at the draw, Kecmanovic, that was interesting. I watched that first set. Tommy Paul should have won that first set, actually. He had some big chances he blew in that tiebreak. And apparently it was, I said it would be a close match. It was straight sets, but all 3 sevens in the scoreline. That first set was the only one I saw, but it looked to me like Kecmanovic was just a little smarter, a little more patient. And Tommy Paul had the flashier shots. At one point, he had a topspin lob that was just titillating, to say the least. But yeah, apparently the smarter player came through. So Kecmanovic and Sonego and Christian Garin up next for Monfils. I like Monfils to come through here to the quarterfinals where he's either going to get Pablo Carreño Busta, Sebastian Korda, or Alcaraz or Berrettini. Alcaraz and Berrettini. Got to see that. That's going to be the next day, not tomorrow. Not today, whatever it is. Get confused with Australia time. Korda just went through a 5-setter with Mute. Mute's pretty good. Busta just came through a 5-setter. So that'll be interesting to see which one of those two come through. Wouldn't it be awesome to see Monfils and Alcaraz? Not impossible. But, he's young. We don't want to go too far ahead of ourselves here. Let's look at this. This should be a little more predictable. All right, Shapo's got Opelka now after messing around in that 5-setter with Kwon. As an American tennis fan, you would hope Opelka could come through here. I don't know. I mean, I watched Shapo and just think, man, he was in charge. I think he was up 4-1 in the first set against Kwon. And he looked outstanding. And I thought, all right, Shapo's coming around. He's figuring it out. Maybe he's going to be a threat in this section. Maybe he could even really seriously challenge Sasha Zverev. And then he gets bogged down into that 5-setter, throwing in some double faults at bad times, Sasha Zverev style. And now he's got to play Riley Opelka. I'm going to say Zverev takes care of either one of those bozos. Although who knows? I mean, Opelka, he's so much firepower and danger there. You just expect him eventually to throw down some maybe he's never going to win a major or anything, but he's going to have some huge upsets, kind of like John Isner has done over the years. Never wins a major, but has had some big upsets. Of course, the biggest one, he almost took Rafa out in the first or second round of the French Open one year. Mannarino comes through. Karatsev, I think Karatsev will be able to handle Mannarino, but never count out Mannarino, man. He's tricky. Simple. I mean, no one plays like him on tour. And then below that, hit the music. We're going to get out of here. Khachanov and Rafa Nadal. After Khachanov is looking pretty good there. And Hoffman showed us a big hitter, a big tall guy with power, can be a little dangerous to Rafa, even though Rafa handled him. I guess a better way to look at this is that was a good tune-up for big hitter and Khachanov. I think Rafa Nadal is going to come through. Karatsev maybe could be dangerous. Mannarino is not going to be dangerous to Rafa Nadal. It is looking like we will get a quarterfinal of Sasha Zverev and Rafa Nadal. That is where my big question mark is. After we saw yesterday, it didn't matter with Millman because he never had a real chance to beat Zverev if he played anywhere close to his best. Is it going to matter if Zverev gets shaky in moments with someone like Rafa? I think it will. I probably am going to pick Rafa to win when we get there. We shall see. We'll be back tomorrow, and we'll look through the draw some more, and we'll talk all about what should be a great match in Medvedev and Nick Kyrgios. See ya!